Let's jump into the first story. And let me just get started with 2 words, Civil War. Yep, I had to say it because everybody was waiting for it. The fire emojis are already in the chat. Feds search home of Jeffrey Clark, former DOJ official who pushed Trump's false election fraud claims. They say Clark is a former DOJ lawyer who former President Donald Trump sought to install as Attorney General in the days before the January 6th Capitol riot, as top officials refused to go along with his vote fraud claims. It wasn't clear what investigators were seeking at Clark's home, but the raid was part of the Justice Department's sweeping investigation into the effort to overturn the 2020 elections, according to sources familiar with the matter. Now, what we're hearing from conservatives and Republicans is that Jeffrey Clark was simply trying to understand and investigate the claims that were being made. On the left, they're saying he's an insurrectionist who is going along with Trump's schemes. I don't think either narrative matters. What matters is the narratives exist. If you're on the left and you're looking at this, you're like, yes, the federal government is going after Trump and his opponents. Certainly then you think Trump's tried staging a coup and we're in the midst of some very serious crisis. Or you're a Trump supporter and you're like, this dude wasn't doing anything wrong and the weight of the DOJ is crushing down on their political rivals. I happen to think that the DOJ, the January 6th committee, is just trying to stop Trump from winning. That's my opinion. But either way, it looks like this country is being completely ripped apart.
Yep. I've said it once and I will say it again. In 2016, when there were accusations made that the presidential election was rigged, we investigated the accused. In 2020, when the same accusation was made, we decided to investigate the accuser. Make of that what you want.
I just don't like how the left is the anti-police state side, quote unquote, the, anti-prison industrial complex. But if it's somebody who we don't know why yet, if we know why and the dude did something wrong, okay, but we don't know why yet, and just to see Democrats blindly be like, yes, queen, and like so excited that just Trump supporters are being arrested or searched or whatever, I don't love.
I would assume that Clark probably knew this was coming. He probably knew it was coming. You look at what the DOJ has done with this sham committee. They've gone after Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, anybody even associated with Trump, anybody that was texting with him, tweeting with him even days prior. This is all about Trump. This is that sham committee. And it's an illegitimate committee, quite honestly.
And Jeffrey Clark, I'm pretty sure he was subpoenaed and he pleaded the fifth. So I wonder if this is retaliation for him refusing to actually answer those questions. Because you know what the January 6th committee is doing? I'll tell you, anybody who's testified for the January 6th committee, you've been played. You watch the videos they're putting out, they're pulling quotes out of context. That's what they wanted. It's a non-adversarial committee. There's no cross-examination, so they're just getting people to say whatever they want. They're taking interviews with the Trump sphere and getting them out of context. It's a show trial. It's a sham. And now they're using the weight of the federal government to crush anybody who is supporting Trump.
And it's all one-sided because there's no Republicans on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, McCarthy asked me to be one of the 5, and I wanted to be. But for your listeners, you need to understand that this is the first time in the history of Congress has a speaker ever rejected a minority leader's picks to be on a select committee. It's never happened before. She didn't like Jim Jordan. She didn't like Jim Banks and some of the others. So we're not on it, but we're doing our own thing.
Because I think it's clearly meant to manipulate people who don't pay attention. So they go, it's a bipartisan committee because we have...
Because we got Liz Cheney.
Yeah, right. You know what I love? I feel like if we're talking about actual political arguments, the real factions are libertarians and conservatives. Because liberals are just saying whatever random crazy nonsense. I just don't even understand. They're like, Liz Cheney's great. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You hated the Cheneys.
Look,
Where you, what?
No one in the Cheney family has ever gotten us like hyped up on fears of terrorism or anything like that to strip people of their civil liberties. I don't think we have anything to worry about here.
Wow. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, huh?
Yeah, if you've been watching the hearings in Liz, the first hearing, 20 minutes, pretty sleepy. She must have a serious crush on Trump because she mentioned his name over and over and over again.
Right.
But truly, I think what it is, she despises him. She thinks about him when she wakes up and when she goes to sleep, she's thinking about because she despises him. Everybody on that committee, they hate him. And I believe, Tim, you're absolutely right. This is about Trump in 2024. There's no other reason for this. Of course, I can't talk about inflation and gas, so it's all about January 6th. And I think it's having, sadly, a little bit of an impact, and maybe that's why you're seeing DeSantis numbers improve a little bit.
Yeah, well,
I like DeSantis though.
I'm not saying he's not a good guy. I'm just saying that I think that as they continue to do this, it's all one-sided, and you keep it on. I was watching MSLSD the other day and CNN, and that's all you saw: Trump's name on it. So they're trying to convince the American people.
It's like they think he's still president or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's been 2 years, man. Go home.
Blue and on, bro.
I know.
They think he's secretly still the president. I got to say, I agree with you. And you would, it's unfortunate because, like you said, it is having something of an effect. But if it wasn't, you'd almost just call it a weird group therapy session. They're all just getting together to vent about how much they didn't like Trump and he was bad. It just seems like a very emotionally satisfying thing for them, rather than something serious people are engaging in for good reasons.
They're just all trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Really.
This is Robert Barnes was on. He was saying he doesn't think they're going to actually criminally charge Trump or even do a criminal referral, because if they do, then it's Ron DeSantis. But what they want to do is demonize Trump enough to where they'll have something to campaign on. So come 2024, Trump comes out and he's like, I'm going to be running again. And then they're going to be like, remember all of that crazy stuff we showed you in the FBI? Oh, don't vote for that guy. Mm-hmm. It's the end of days. That's what they want.
It's Russiagate 2.0.
Right. Exactly.
That I wanted to ask you about that, which is, do you think your constituents, because when I go on Twitter and, the people I follow are, a lot of them are famous Hollywood people or people on the left still, and my people on the right, like everyone's kind of talking about it. Do real people care about this, or do real people just want to talk about the economy? Like, are there working poor constituents who are coming up to you talking about January 6th? Like, is it an issue that affects real people right now?
I think when the people that talked about it, they said there's very few people watching this stuff. Listen, they cannot talk about inflation. They can't talk about gas prices. But the mom and dad and everybody else that's paying $5 for fuel, that's what's on their mind. The food, all of it, the inflation, 8.5%. So what else are the Democrats going to play? Right. I mean, really, quite honestly, they're pretty clever about this.
Right.
Let's just talk about January 6th because we can just beat Trump every day. Beat him, because they don't want him coming back in 2024. Now, I hope he comes back because I think he'll be the 47th president if he comes back.
He will be lost.
Could you imagine?
I do. I believe he's coming back.
Could you just imagine being at a gas station and then all of a sudden you hear someone just yell out in anger, like, son of a... And you're like, oh, man, you must have saw the gas prices. And you walk over, gas prices? No, I'm watching the January 6th hearing. And
it's that Viking guy. He's back.
Yeah.
Like,
shaman.
Yeah.
I came so close to losing it all that day.
Oh my gosh.
This is so hysterical, the entire narrative. He's the sitting president of the United States at this point, has complete control over the military, right? He's the commander in chief, and his attempt at an insurrection is to vaguely dog whistle that people enter a building without weapons.
Yeah, basically.
It was.
What?
If anything, we learned he's really bad at insurrection. So we should all feel safer for a third term.
Yeah,
homeboy tried it and he was not good at it.
Second term.
They're pretty clever too because they show the worst few minutes of footage, and they'll show law enforcement officers get hurt. And there's not a law enforcement officer across the country that would support any law enforcement officer getting hurt. And,
no.
And if you assaulted a law enforcement officer that day, go to prison, not jail. Go to prison, lock them up, and I think we would all agree with that.
Yes.
But I tell you something, when I give tours of that Capitol today, and I gave it last week, and when you go through that beautiful statutory hall, if the individuals inside that building wanted to destroy that building, they could have. There's monuments everywhere. There's paintings. They could have destroyed it, but they chose not to because most of the people inside that building didn't do anything wrong. They were there. They shouldn't have been there, but quite honestly, they shouldn't have done. They didn't do anything wrong.
One guy got acquitted of all charges,
and rightfully so.
A video showing the cop waving him in.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. I mean, there's nuance, right? You did have people on one side of the building who were rioting, who broke the doors down. On the other side of the building, the police removed the barriers, opened the doors, waved people in. Those people didn't do anything wrong. The people who broke in and were causing problems did.
One guy tried claiming that he was let in, and there's a video of him climbing through a broken window, and they're like, nice try.
I don't think so.
He's like, why would they just leave the window open?
He was a dumb one.
There was a pie on the windowsill. I was not going to go there.
They texted me, said, smell for the pie, then cover your fist with a bandana, punch it.
I want to know if they're going to charge the dog. I mean, Triumph the dog now with unlawful.
Oh, that's right.
No one charges Triumph the dog.
My point is, even when you look at the people who did break the law, who should be prosecuted, it still wasn't an insurrection. No, it wasn't.
Well, and this was maybe this is a stretch, Tim, but this was, Occupy is you had normal people marching peacefully, which is our right to do, and then you had people destroying property, and those are two very different groups of people.
Of course.
Well, with January 6th, it is fair to point out this is the Capitol building, and there was an effort to count the electoral votes. So it's bad that gets disrupted. That puts it on a special level. But
Yes.
it was a riot. It was a riot, and it was a really, really bad one. And there's questions about security and how we should be handling this. But the funny thing is, on January 20th, 2017, hundreds of black-clad far leftists romped through D.C., smashing windows and setting fires, attacking people, and they were all arrested, and they were almost all of them were acquitted, except for the people who actually pleaded guilty because they didn't
Immediately,
they
yeah.
made a mistake.
Yeah.
A bunch of people just said, "I'm not, no matter what, not guilty." And then the progressive lawyers and legal apparatus were able to get these people out. Lawsuits were filed, and the city ended up having to pay the people they arrested, some of them. And one of them, I think, was a journalist. So it's funny when the far left rampages through D.C. during Trump's inauguration, the government doesn't care. But when you come to the government's house, all of a sudden they're going to put the boot on you. It shows you who they're really willing to protect. It's not you, it's them.
But only sometimes when you go to the government's house, right? Because we cannot forget the 529.
529.
insurrection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
529.
where they surrounded
Troy,
the,
do you know-
the White
you know
House.
about the
1,500, what was it, 1,500 federal agents?
No, 150.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 50. Yeah, 150. I exaggerated. Look, I'm turning to CNN.
150 million.
100 but yeah, 150 federal agents were injured. They surrounded the White House. The president literally had to retreat into a bunker. And what was the response?
Bunker
Laughter.
fight.
People were laughing at the president. It was a meme.
Do the Republicans have a plan on holding a 529 select committee to?
I don't believe so.
No.
Well, but you know about 529.
No, go ahead.
I don't.
The thousands of far leftists ripped down the barricades in front of the White House.
Yeah, they tried to burn down
tried tearing the fence down.
church.
Set fire to a White House guard post. Set fire to St. John's Church. The president was ushered into an emergency bunker out of fear for his safety, and journalists were injured. 150 officers got injured throughout the protests. There is a photo from an aerial photo of D.C. showing fires all over the city. It was so much worse than January 6th. But I got to tell you, man, Troy, you see, I think the issue is the Democrats, they play offense. They hold these committees. Republicans don't do it. Why don't the Republicans announce a select committee on 529 and start bringing in people, filing subpoenas? Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.